you get the labile affect, and you get the frantic attempts to avoid, real or imagined abandonment.
Okay.
And you dissociation, people don't necessarily know what it means.
So in your experience, those three kind of symptoms are the ones that are kind of focused on and sort of spoken about and used to identify and other.
Okay. So now here I know I'm jumping around, but here I have another thing to say, which is that, and this goes against what I was just saying about trying to carve out a space for something helpful in there, because actually I think that women in particular, but men and women, get diagnosed with borderline personality disorder because in an iatrogenic way, for a number of reasons, but one of them is because services are organised in such a way that people do have a reaction to Friday afternoons and discharges from treatment, and it does start to look like a frantic effort to avoid a real or imagined abandonment in that awful phrase, because we've invited people to depend on us in particular ways, and then I don't know, the primitive human behaviour disguised as treatment on my sort of texts. Sorry, just not psychologically minded. I'm going to have to close this session because there's other people that need it more, this treatment. People then might get triggered in all sorts of ways by that and a whole, that acting on a whole set of other preoccupations that they have, and it might appear to us that they then make an enactment in response to that abandonment, and we might put the abandonment in inverted commas and say, well, it's got a bit of a borderline feel to this, hasn't it? But we've done it. Do you know what I mean? We've superimposed an agenda there. I think that I'm particularly thinking about the eating disorders ward here, which, as I said earlier, overlaps quite a lot. But I'm not, it's not a forensic unit, but it's a locked ward, and two-thirds, it's 99.5% female patients. You know this ward, but at the moment, a third to a half to sometimes a bit more are detained under Section 3, and none of the rest of them are wanting to be there, and there's quite a lot of what we used to see at Henderson of, well, strictly speaking, we're not supposed to threaten you with detention, but the fact is we're a bit worried about if you did try and leave, we might have to. So, people's arms are being twisted in substantial ways. And so there's at least an analogy with the forensic setting, because the forensic setting is supposed to provide a challenge to psychotherapy or psychological therapies. How do you engage with treatment with people who are forced to be there? But I'm not to waffle on and on and on, but I often see, and I try to comment on this, patients being pejoratively constructed as having borderline, referrals to complex needs service, that really on the basis of the borderline enactments that were the sequel to the discharge planning. And I think, well, hang on a second. People are reacting to the discharge planning in ways that happen to fit our little rubric here. That's not innate, even if it sort of could be understood in those languages. We've pulled her in, said, give us control, because you can't be trusted and your food practices all over the place. So, come onto the ward, give over all control, have things put into you. What's that about? We'll gradually give back you the control. It'll be a long mission. It'll make the Magic Mountain look like a kind of just quick walk around the hills. And you're not going to have a reaction when we say, sorry, treatment's over? You are going to have a reaction. So, but then the complex needs services in South West London vary in their practice. But for some of them, you need to tick 5 categories on ICD-10 to get in. For others,
when you say
you have to be
emotionally unstable personality disorder.
Exactly. You have to be EUPD, and you have to be demonstrably in those 5, meet 5 of the criteria.
Okay.
Right? So if you're Wandsworth Complex Needs Service, complexities are slightly less of a euphemism, and they'll kind of think about a bit of complexity and see you and formulate it. But Sutton Merton Complex Needs Service, well, so let's get out the skid and see where you are on EUPD, and so the referring team has to make a prima facie case for EUPD. So if you've got, within the discourse, avoidant personality disorder, you've got no hope of getting your complex needs met. But if you've got 5 out of 9 on whatever it is on EUPD, they'll give you an assessment. So then, the woman I'm thinking of, we have to scurry around for the day unit team had to scurry around for reasons to get this poor woman across the threshold of the complex needs service, and that 3 of the things they listed were her reaction to us cutting the treatment short.
Right.
And you think, well, that's just completely circular. Yeah.
It's
Can't
interesting,
even remember what question
and
was the answer
very
to,
interesting as well that they call that a complex needs service and not a personality disorder service, even though the criteria.
Oh yes, so this is a straight euphemism. The personality disorders services have become complex needs services. I kind of think, okay, well, I mean, it's euphemistic. But if it kind of dislodges the impasse, that's not necessarily a total disaster. But be honest about it.
What do you think the dishonesty is about?
Well, dishonesty is when it comes down to we're exactly back with a medical model and ticking the number of criteria you meet on the questionnaire in order to even get through the door. And because a complex needs service would be okay. If we weren't just finding some other form of language for the same set of othering attributions, then yes, we need something to deal with complexity. I'm not that anybody's simple, but okay, we've got a psychosis early intervention team. We've got some eye out, God help us, but we need some community therapies for people to whom we can allocate the scarce resource of some psychological therapies.
Okay.
So let's not necessarily get stuck on complex needs service, because there might be a better name for it, but let's have complex needs service if that's what we've got, but let's not have them operating as personality disorders cross-dressed.
So I think, picking up on that, what you just said about the different name, that might not be the best name for it. I suppose, and I'm interested in this sort of idea that there maybe are, I wouldn't take that as a given, but there maybe are women out there who, as perhaps Dave Pilgrim sort of refers to as distressed, and at times are distressing.
Okay.
And thinking about that in the context of their trauma histories, it's been proposed that complex post-traumatic stress disorder will re-emerge at some point in the latest edition of the ICD.
Yeah.
There's still debate around this, but this may potentially have an interesting impact on the offender personality disorder pathway and how women are viewed and treated in regards to that. What do you think about complex post-traumatic stress disorder as a diagnosis and its relationship to borderline personality disorder in particular?
Okay. I just get a glass of water.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
do you
we
want
can take a break at any point. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah,
is it water? Still water?
That would be lovely. Yeah, just a small one.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll stop this. Let's have a break, because that's probably a good time to have a break.
I just needed to wet my whistle.